When I started game dev 15 to 20 years ago, things were different. Back then, I was still using Blender 2.25 Publisher, and I bet 99% of you don't even know that Blender used to have a game engine, and it was closed source and paid. I had to buy a license to make games with that. But I remember that if I wanted to do something, I had to do it myself. I had to learn everything from scratch. There was no such thing as an asset store or somewhere to buy a pre-made asset or get it for free. There was no pre-made logic. If I wanted to make a character, I had no option other than learn how to do organic modeling, texturing, animation, rigging, everything myself. The same for a vehicle or a city or a skyscraper, not even to mention that it was hard to get a huge asset or a huge city working and performant in the computers back then. So I had to learn optimization, and that usually involves a lot of coding and math and weird stuff that was highly not documented back then in the internet. And the same goes for the logic. If I want to make the character move, jump or whatever, I had to do it myself. There was no such things as a bunch of tutorials online or paid courses that really help you. Programming was hard back then, especially for me. I was way younger back then and I had to learn it. Visual scripting was very early on. Blender used to have the logic bricks, but it was nothing compared to the Unreal Engine blueprints. There was not even a character physics for your characters. You had to use dynamic rigid bodies or just raycast and simulate it yourself. It was hard. And with all that in mind, it sounds reasonable to say that all the advances we made were good. Because today, even if you have no experience with coding, art, or game development in general, you can just open YouTube, search for Unreal Engine 5 tutorial, and in with half an hour, you probably have a realistic scene with vegetation and a character moving and walking, a very realistic one using MetaHuman, and a bunch of Quixel assets and Mega scans for you to populate the world. Sounds great, right? Especially if you want to have a logic. We always have the marketplace, the asset store, a bunch of other places and solutions for you to get it very fast, quick and easy to put in your game, and finally realize your dream and make your own project. Great, right? Well, this is where I believe things get a little bit more complicated. 20 years ago, if you accessed the jungle that was the internet back then, and you managed to find someone making a game and posting updates online, you will really know that that dude really made all that, really put a lot of effort into making these games, and in the end, it was mostly a game with a lot of character and soul. I still remember the first time I saw someone with an animated character in Blender game engine back then when I started, and I was like shocked because I had no idea how this dude managed to make that. There was no tutorials about it, there was no pre-made animation, there was no Mixamo or motion captured ones. I knew that that dude really made the animations. He made the rig, he made the animation itself, he made the character and everything, and that was impressive. And the same goes for the logic. I remember a first-person shooter that I saw with a bunch of cubes, but he made the logic, the physics, and it was unique. The same goes for an helicopter video, and as simple as it was impressive because I knew what it took to get to that place. And this is what I believe it's missing today. This character, this uniqueness, this sense of completion that you look and say, whoa, this person really made that. This person knows how to do all that. Because nowadays, you watch a game dev video or a devlog or a text about it or a game on Steam, and they all feel the same way. First, the person picks like a random game engine. It is usually either Unity, Unreal, or Godot. Nothing against those engines. Again, that's not the point of this video. He picks these engines and try his best during 3 or 4 hours to learn the basics and start putting together a game. And that's usually very superficial. And in the video, in the devlogs, you see that when the person starts talking about a very simple and basic game mechanic or game system that every engine have, as it was a very complicated stuff, really showing that this person put little to no effort learning the things behind the scenes. And then the second part of every devlog ever is the person opening marketplace or asset store and bringing together a bunch of weird pre-made assets, making a Frankenstein that in the end it's called a game. But is this really a game? Is this really a finished product that reflects what the person had in mind, the uniqueness of every single human being? Well, I don't think so, and that's the problem. That's my main issue with games today, with game engines delivering power and everything out of the box, and with marketplace full of assets that does literally everything that you can imagine. If you want a character, if you want a hospital, if you want a car, if you want an helicopter, if you want a mechanic, a moving simulation or animation or wherever, you can get that, and it is usually for free or very cheap. And what I believe is happening as a byproduct of that is that people are forgetting to learn new things. People are forgetting to try and to experiment and to push themselves to a next level, to do something more advanced and more interesting and more complex. The games are losing this uniqueness, and they are all either very generic, realistic with a bunch of assets and no depth at all, or either a weird first-person shooter with cubes and all that. And again, there's nothing against this type of games. I just mentioned before that I saw a bunch of that in the past and that was amazing. But what is wrong with those games is the lack of soul, the lack of depth and uniqueness. I'm not against the engines delivering everything out of the box or the marketplace with a bunch of cool and useful assets. I don't think we should fight against that. What I believe we should do is to really think about what we want as a game developer and to really pay the price that is necessary to learn new things and to evolve, to make more interesting and advanced mechanics, but also graphics, sounds, stories, and more depth ones. Because people keep saying that the market is competitive and it is very hard to succeed as a game developer, and that's why you need the highest technology, you need Unreal Engine 5 with graphics, and you need high quality mega scans and high fidelity assets to make your game really stand out. But in the end, what we are really doing is creating a bunch of generic, expensive asset flips, and that's not a way to stand out. It's better to make something simple and small but with character and uniqueness that really stands out than a bunch of generic asset flips. And that's my point. Me and our team here at Uniday Studio are creating our dream game. We've been doing that for months now, and you know what? We are not using an engine, we are not using any asset or anything like that. We made the engine ourselves, we made the assets ourselves, we made the textures ourselves, and it's not because we don't agree with taking pre-made stuff, it's because we really want to learn. We really want to make something that feels unique and feels like our game, not someone else's asset flip, but our game with a lot of soul. And we are so happy and we feel so empowered that because of that we feel like we can do everything you want now, and that's a feeling that I truly believe that you can only experience. You cannot hear for someone else and believe that. You need to feel it for yourself, and the only way to do this is to take the time to learn and evolve your skills and do something unique with no asset flips, with maybe no engine if you feel like this is putting you back. What I want to encourage you in this video is to try. If you always made games using assets from the asset store or the marketplace, either textures or animations or models, try for the first time to open Blender and do it yourself. It will probably be very bad, and I promise that it will be bad if that's your first time. But then if you keep doing and doing and doing, sometime eventually you will find what is good for you. You will find your own style and you will feel good because of that, and people will notice that. People will notice that it's not an asset flip and not something very generic and bad. And if you already do that but you are using Unreal or Godot or Unity, well, maybe you should try make your own engine or using something else, other like a framework like Rayleap or Gunslinger. I don't know, try that. It will be bad the first time you do it. Maybe you should do it for a jam in 2 or 3 days and then do it again and again and again, but I promise that you will learn so much. I'm not saying that again you should abandon Unreal, you should abandon Marketplace, but you should at least recognize what it takes to do it all that. You should at least learn in the process in order to make a better game, a better quality product for the players. And that's what I have for you today. I hope you learned something in this video and you are thinking about doing something new. I encourage you this, and this is why I'm making this video. And remember, let's keep making games and let's keep transforming our dreams into published products that people can play and enjoy everywhere in the world.